explosion. Oh, look at that! Absolutely delicious. Hello there, gastronauts. I'm going to show you how to cook the perfect steak. First thing is, you need a nice big fat steak. So here's a beautiful piece of sirloin, and I would say at least 2 centimeters thick. Okay, now a fair amount of salt. Okay, got some really nice salt crystals here. Sea salt crystals. It does look like a huge amount, but you need it. And also, a lot of that won't actually end up on your steak after it's been cooked. So don't worry about that. And then you need to oil it. So you oil the steak and not the pan. And we're gonna massage that in. Leave this to rest now. For at least 10 minutes, try and do 20 if you can. The really important thing about cooking your steak is a really, really high temperature. It's got to be a searing hot pan, super hot. Now you don't need one of these, but I'm going to check the temperature. Just beginning to smoke a little bit, and if I check the temperature of it, it's terrifyingly high. And the smoke's beginning to come off that now, and that's just little sort of residual minerals and things like that coming off. It's at room temperature, which is perfect. You don't want this to be straight from the fridge, because otherwise it just won't cook well enough. Okay, that's perfect. You don't need to put anything in the pan at all, just your oiled and salted steak. Okay, here we go. Now she's cooking. It's cooking, but you don't touch it. Don't touch it, okay? Lots of people put something in and then they push it around, they fiddle, they have a little look. Just leave it be and leave it there for 2 whole minutes. I like my steak rare, okay? If you want to go for medium rare, maybe 3 minutes. Oh, that now. Those smells, those really intense beefy smells are really important. Now, the temperature here is vitally important because what you're doing is you're creating something, an amazing cascade of chemical reactions called the Maillard reaction. That beautiful brown crust that's forming underneath there, we don't want to go too long, is packed full of these umami flavors created by the heat searing those proteins and together with some sugar. Okay, that is exactly what I'm after. So, a beautiful brown crust packed full of all those Maillard flavors. You want the inside to still be juicy and a little bit rare. So that's why you have to get this up to such a high temperature. So on the other side, about 2 minutes, but by God, I want that brown crust on it. Let's take this out of the pan. But this is not ready to eat yet because it has to rest. I'm gonna put another plate on the top to keep it warm, and I'm going to put it in my oven at just a really low temperature at 30 degrees. Now, while you've got the pan here, we're going to deglaze it. So first of all, this is going to hiss and spit a bit, but a tiny little bit of vinegar, just for a little bit of jus, a little bit of gravy, and it's mopping up all of those lovely juices that have been left behind. And that gives a nice little sour kick. A little splash of white wine. This is the point at which you can get flames, okay? Now flames are a good thing, but you've got to contain them. Because if you do that under one of these hoods, you can get a lot of flames coming off there, and if the flames go up into the extract fan, it can be bad news. The trick, if you don't want to handle flames, is just turn it off. Turn the flames off, and it won't spark. Now, I'm quite comfortable with flames, I quite like it, but then I've done it a fair bit. So, make sure you know what you're doing before you start playing with all that. You don't have to use wine if you don't want to. You can, it's nice to put something slightly acidic, so you can put some kind of, fruit juice and things like that, and depending on how you want it. Pomegranate juice, absolutely delicious. At this point, I always add a teaspoon of jam. Now, that sounds really weird, but again, you've got a little bit of sourness, and a little bit of sweetness, and I love just a gently sweet gravy with a little bit of stock. Again, lots of spitting. So now that's just taking up all of that flavour. It should be really nice. I'm going to turn it right down and add a clove of garlic. So I'm going to go a little bit that way first. Add those. And you don't want the garlic to burn, you just want it to sort of poach a little bit and release some of its flavours into that lovely juice. Ooh, beautiful. So you can still see that lovely crust on there. Now you could just put that straight on a plate. And I know people like a big chunky thing like that to eat, but I quite like to actually slice it a little bit. It's a very French way of serving steak. You slice it into little sections across the grain. It's really, really nice. And this is what those little strips look like. So that is beautiful and tender. It's really nice and pink inside. For the final touch, now you could strain this if you want to, get the bits of garlic out. Frankly, I don't mind. Excuse fingers. Oh! It's packed with umami. It's got that beautiful, delicious crust on it, which gives you huge amounts of those amazing, amazing beefy flavours. It's tender and juicy inside, and that lovely, thick, gumptious kind of gravy over the top of it just makes this absolutely beautiful. And that is how to cook the perfect steak. It's so easy. Please come back and subscribe to my channel and see some more of my extraordinary films about food.